Jimmy 78 over.
Welcome on board and congratulations! When you see this video, you've made the selection. You are one of the first 25 passengers who will travel to the future. The journey will take 8 hours and you'll arrive on the 21st of September in the year 2145. For security and confidentiality reasons, you have not received instructions before now. Please allow us to inform you about everything you should know about time traveling. The easiest way to explain what time travel is to compare it with traveling in distance. Most people experience traveling in distance as follows. You are traveling when you move from point A to point B. When you stop, you are not traveling. This is a major misconception. People cannot stand still. We are always traveling. Even if you don't move between point A and point B, you are moving at the speed of close to 1,000 miles per hour because our planet Earth rotates on its axis. And even if Earth didn't spin, we would still orbit around a star called the Sun at the speed of 67,000 miles per hour. People are not only continuously traveling in space, but also in time, at the speed of 1 second per second. But you are going to be one of the first humans who travel faster in time, what most people consider time traveling. Traveling to the past is impossible for people, but it is possible to send signals to the past. We'll explain that later. History of time travel experiments. In the late 1930s, one of the first radio telescopes received an unusual signal from space. After a couple of years, a team of scientists discovered that it was a message from the future. The message contained instructions to build a time machine. Under the command of President Roosevelt, scientists who worked for the United States Air Force started to develop the first time machine. It was finished in April 1947. The first test, on July 8, 1947, caused an explosion. The time machine exploded in the neighborhood of Roswell, New Mexico. Nobody got hurt. We presented it as a failed weather balloon experiment, but many people believed that it was a crash flying saucer. In 1954, the first plant was sent to the future, Finger Plant Chuck. This was a successful experiment. In 1975, the first dog was sent to the future. The dog was called Albert Leica. Albert Leica arrived alive, but died in seconds. What went wrong? The scientists expected that the dog would disappear in 1975 and move to the future to an empty room. They made one big mistake. The empty room was not empty. An empty room contains air, and air is a mixture of nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, several other gases, and water vapor. So, the air would end up in the entire body of the dog, including the veins. The air bubbles in the arteries caused arterial air embolism, which immediately caused a heart attack. In 1975, they did another experiment with the dog Albert Leica II. The arrival gate in the future was entirely vacuum sucked, and the first dog who traveled to the future brought his own air. The experiment passed. The dog was alive and healthy. In the meantime, we've sent several mammals to the future, and every experiment since 1975 was successful. So your journey will be very safe. Time travel techniques. There are several ways to travel in time. Some are very difficult, but not impossible in the future, like reaching the speed of light, using Einstein-Rosen bridges, also known as wormholes, flying near a black hole, and flying nearby huge planets. Luckily, as I mentioned earlier, we've received information from the future to build a time machine. This device works with cabin-based time dilation technology. It's too hard to explain how it works, but in the future you'll receive a 4-year training to understand it. The biggest challenge that the inventors of the cabin had to overcome was distance. Imagine that this is you, traveling 2 weeks into the future. Now you are time traveling. You are moving faster in time, but the planet is orbiting around the sun. So you would arrive in the right time, but not in the right place. Messages from the future. As mentioned before, we know how to build a time machine because we receive messages from the future. You may have wondered earlier, why didn't they warn us that the first time machine would explode? Why wouldn't they warn us that the first dog would die? It's because it would end up in another reality, another timeline. Imagine that we send a flower to the future with our time machine. The people in the future can send us a signal to confirm that they received the flower. What they can't do is send their message to the time before we've sent the flower, because the future that received the flower is not made in the time before the flower was sent. The message would end up in a different timeline. Because of this phenomenon, the grandfather paradox doesn't exist. You may know the grandfather paradox from science fiction stories like Ancestral Voices by Nat Schnackner, published in 1933. In those stories, a person travels to the past and kills their own grandfather before the conception of their father or mother, which prevents the time traveler's existence. If traveling back in time was possible, you would not disappear if you would kill your grandfather, because the future you are residing in was already made, including you. You would just not be born on a different timeline. Do you remember when the newspapers mentioned that the Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope received a strong narrowband radio signal on August 15, 1977? They called it the WOW signal. A lot of people thought it was extraterrestrial. It was not. It was just another message from the future. What does your arrival look like? First, you'll be observed by a doctor. After that, a huge team of people will welcome you. The entire world is watching to see your arrival. Things you should know. There is less greenery in the future. Don't complain about it, because the people from the future are not responsible for it. They blame the past, your time. Don't feel offended when people swear in front of you. Some of the words are regular language, and people have no bad intentions. People look younger in the future. A woman who looks like a young woman could actually be 80 years old. Genetic design is common in the future. Don't get scared when you see people with purple eyes or extremely big eyes. Besides, you'll scare people as well with your looks. A lot of historians will approach you as soon as you arrive. It's also likely that temposexuals will approach you. Temposexuals are people who are sexually attracted to people from a different time. According to the book DSM-61, their attraction is a projection of a hidden desire to travel to another time. Don't be afraid. Fear is very common, as you will be in a totally different time. Everything is new, but you are safe and don't have to worry. Now we give the floor to Lieutenant General Dr. W.P. Petrolsky, who answers some expected questions.
Question. Will I become a time travel tourist? No. A tourist goes back home after visiting a different place, or in our case, a different time. You will become a permanent resident of the future. You will not return. Question. Will my bank account still be active? No, but you don't have to worry about money. We arranged everything for you. Question. What will I hear and see during time travel? As soon as we start our engines, you will see nothing special. However, our experiments have taught us what time traveling sounds like. It may sound strange or almost eerie to your ears. However, some folks love the sound of time travel, comparing it to the song of the heavenly choir or their favorite music. Other people think of that weird Doctor Who noise. In reality, it sounds like this. Question. What happened to the people who didn't make the cut? This part is ingenious. We'll put them on candid camera and convince them it was all an elaborate prank. Question. What will happen to my family or friends? Don't worry about that. We'll take care of it. Question. When will I meet the other 24 time travelers? You will meet them shortly after you arrive.
Well, the instructions end here. If you want to read more about your journey, read the book that is under your seat. Enjoy your journey.